time that the men would come up and they would present themselves. La Yashal. Imadim, which means to stand. Wapanya Hakwadam, and face the east. We're going to do the Lord's Prayer. We're going to do the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. The Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Ya Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Quadash, Hayat, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakufka, Daba'a, Batazah, Ka Hayat, Aisha, Ba'aratazah, Kawa, Hayat, Bashamayim, Lathandanawa, Lacham, Kal Yawam, Wasalak Nawa, Habawak Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Habawak Yanawa, Wala'a, Tabaya'a Nawa, Banasayawan, Abol, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wa'ataparawa, La Awalamyam Aman. In the English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. Hakak, the power in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Babu Kusha, Nathundanawa, Hakak, Hakak, Lava Pa'a, Kama Chala, Mukal Marawa, Hakak, Latahar, Hamad Zarayim, Hakak, Lahakwayim, Hamakyim, Hakak, Arachawa, Hatama'ala, Hatama'ala, Lagarashan, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, for Wadaman. In the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the leprous, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shah, thank you, so be it. Psalms 121 in the Hebrew, Asha'a, Ayanya, Al Haharyam, Ma'ayan, Yaba'a, Isaiah, Ma'aim, Yahweh, Aisha, Shemayim, Wa'arataza, Al Yathana, Lamawat, Vagalaka, Al Yanawam, Shamoraka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yashan, Shawamor Yasha'ala, Yahweh, Shamoraka, Yahweh, Tazalaka, Al Yad Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashamas, La'a, Yakaka, Wayarak, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamoraka, Makau Rai, Yashamor, Afnapashka, Yahweh, Yashamor, Tazaafka, Wabawa'aka, Maita, Wa'aid, Iwalam, Aman. In the English, I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from which cometh my help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore, so be it. Psalms 83 in the Hebrew, Alahayim, Al Damayalaka, Al Tacharash, Wa Al Tashakwat, Al Kayahana, Awayabyaka, Yahama Yawan, Momashanayaka, Nasha'awa, Ra'ash, Al Aimaka, Ya Iranyamwa, Sawad, Wayata Ya'ai Tazawa, Al Tazapawanyaka, Amorwa, Lakawa, Wanakakidam, Magoya, Wala'a, Yazakar, Sham Yasha'ala, Aiwad, Kaya, Nawa'ai Tazawa, Lab, Yahadwa, Audika, Baryat, Yakarafwa, Ahalya, Adawam, Wayashama'aliyam, Mawa'aba, Wahagaryam, Gabal, Wa'aimawan, Wa'aimalak, Palasha, Am Yashabya, Tazawar, Gama Ashawar, Nalawa, Aimam, Hayawa, Zawawai, Labanya Lawat, Salah, Aisha Laham, Kamadyan, Kasaya Saraa, Kayabyan, Manakal, Kwayashwan, Nashamadwa, Bayanda Ara, Hayawa, Daman, La Adama, Shayathamwa, La Yabmawa, Ka'irab, Wakazaaba, Wakazaba, Wakatazalmanai, Kaul, Nasiyakamwa, Ashor, Amora, Nayarasha, Lanawa, Na'awa, Alahayam, Alahaya, Shayathamwa, Kagalgala, Kakwash, Lapanya Raka, Ka'ash, the Ba'ira Ira, it's like the Ba'ira Ira, Wakalahaba, Talahat, Haryam, Khan, the Radatma, Basa Iraka, Wabasawapaka, Tabahalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Kwalawan, Wayabakwashwa, Shamkai Yahawa, Yabashwa, Wayabahawa, Ayai, Wayahapurwa, Wayabadwa, Wayadaayawa, Kaya, Atha, Shamkai Yahawa, Labadka, Al Yawan, Al Kaula, Rataza, Aman. In the English, keep not thou silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have opened the children of Lot, Salah, do unto them, as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kasan, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth, make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeeb, yea, all their princes as the Ba, and as the Muna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of Yahweh in possession. O by power, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth for wood, and as the flames set up the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Yahweh, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the most high over all the earth. So be it. The blessings in the Hebrew. Rakatha Yahweh, wa Yahweh Shai, wa Maya Ka'ala, wa Alahayim, Matazab Ya'a, Alawak Yahana, Ha Alawakyim, Ha Saranyim, Ha Kodazayanyim, Ha Kayayalim, wa Awakyim, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, the Wad Alman. In the English, bless you Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai, and Michael, and the angels, commanding General Yahana, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Sar, which means to turn. Yeshabim, which means to be seated. All can be seated. So Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yahana, and we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. So this is the Sabbath service class, all right? The Sabbath service class is something very important to attend. Salakia. The Sabbath service class is something very, very important to attend. Like, this is a part of our culture. This is a part of who we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a part of our heritage. Like, this is something very important. All right. Like, this is something very important to attend. All right. And so the Sabbath service goes back many, many generations, because this is actually a part of our culture. Just like every other nation and race of people on the earth, all right, there's a culture that we have. Just like every other nation and race on this earth, we have a culture just like them. We have a heritage just like them. We have a nationality just like them. Like, there is no difference between us and these other nations when it comes to having a culture and a heritage to ourselves. Like, the Chinese have their own culture, the Japanese have their own culture, the Vietnamese have their own culture, the Koreans have their own culture. Even though they're all Asians, they all have their own culture. The East Indians have their own culture. You understand? The Arabs have their own culture. Even though they're all Middle Eastern, damn near, the Pakistanians and the Afghanistanians and the Arabs, even though they're all Middle Eastern, All right. They all have their own individual culture and heritage. They do. All right. They have their own culture, just like the Africans have their own culture. The Egyptians have their own culture. The Nigerians have their own culture. The Algerians have their own culture. The Ethiopians have their own culture. The Kenyans have their own culture. The Ghana people have their own culture. Even though that they're all Africans, they all have their own culture and heritage. Well, no different than blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans being our own people. We actually have our own culture. And so happily that culture is in the Bible and is found in the Bible. And if you do not know by now, if you are so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are God's chosen people. You are the Israelites according to the Bible. We are the Jews that the Bible talks about. We are the Israelites that the Bible talks about. And this Bible is our records. This Bible is our culture. This Bible is our heritage. It's our records. It talks about us. It talks about who we are. And that's why it's so amazing. That's why it's so beautiful to know. Because this Bible talks about us. This is from, listen, generation after generation. We never knew, and not all of us understood that the Bible was talking about us. The Bible was talking about the Latinos. The Bible was talking about the blacks. The Bible was talking about the Native Americans. How beautiful is that? There's this Bible, everyone reads this Bible. Everyone knows about the Bible. Everybody knows about God. Everybody knows about Christ. But imagine this is all about you. Imagine that. Imagine this entire time, throughout all the slavery, throughout all the oppression, throughout all the lynching, throughout all the molestation, throughout all the sex trafficking, throughout all the mass incarceration, with all the murder, with all the murders, with all the terrorism, this Bible talks about you. This Bible is talking about us as so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. How amazing is that? So we're gonna go back off where we left off. We was in Nehemiah. All right. We was in Nehemiah. We're gonna finish off Nehemiah. Continue with Nehemiah. So like if I could. Let me also get it in the English too. Make sure you guys sign. Make sure you guys put your name, city, and state. Don't forget to sign in. All right. Don't forget to sign in. We're gonna start from verse 22, and I'm gonna get into Hebrew. So Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 22 in the Hebrew. Wa amara, laloyim, ashar, yahayawa, matazaharyim, wabahayam, shamaryim, sha'ayim, lakodash, yawam, hashabah, gam, za'at, za'at, like it, zakara, laya, alahaya, Wachawas, like it, Wachawasa, Alia, Karab, Chasadak, verse 23. Gam, like it, verse 23. Gam, Bayam, Haham, Va'ayafya, Hayahawat, like it, Hayahawadayam, Hashayabwa, like it, Nashyam, like it, Nashayam, Asha with the wat slakia. Asha dawaya slakia. Asha dawad yawa. Dawadaya slakia. Asha dawadayawa. Asha dawadayawa. Imam slakia. I'm a wan yawa. I'm a wan yawa. Mawa abba yawa. All right, verse 24. Wabanyaham khatazaya. Marabor. Ashdawadaya, Slakia, Ashdawadaya, Slakia, Wa'ayanma, Makar, it's like a Makayarm, Ladabar, Yahawah, what color Shawan, it's like a Kalash, it's like a what Kalashwan, it's like a Lashawan, it's like a what Kalashwan, Imam, wa Imam, Aim, wa Aim, it's like a Aim, wa Aim. Verse 25, wa Arayab, Aima, wa Aqualalma, wa Aka, Maham, Anashyam, wa Amarat, it's like a wa Amaratma, wa Ashab, it's like a wa Ashab Ya'im, ba Alahayam Am, the Thunwa, Banaf Yakam, Labanyaham, wa Am, Dasha'awa, Ma Banaf Yaham, Labanya Yakam, Walakam. Verse 26. Halawa'a Aul, Al-Allah, Khata, Shalamha, Malak, Yasha'ala, Wabagorium, Harabium, La'a, Haya, like it, Hayaha, Malak, Kamawa, Wahawab, it's like a Mahawab, La Alahayawa, Hayaha, Wayathan Hawa, it's like a Wayathanawa, Alahayam, Malak, Al, Kau, Yasha'ala, Gam, Afwa, it's like a Afwa, Hakatayaawa, Hanashyam, it's like a Hanashayam, I believe it was wives, right? Hanashayam, Hanakar Yawa. Verse 27. Walakam, Hanashma, it's like a Nashamai, Hanashamai, La Aisha, Af Kaul, Harai, Hagawadal, it's like a Hagawadala, Hazah, Lamai, it's like a Lama'ayol, it's like a Lama'ayol, Ba'alahayanawa, it's like a Balahayanawa, Yanawa, Ba'ala, it's like a Alahayanawa, Lahashayab, Nashayam, Nakar Yawa. Verse 28. Wamabanya, Yahawadai, Ban, Ala Yashayab, Hakahan, Gadala, it's like a Gadalawal, it's like a Gadalwal, Shatan, it's like a Khatan, Khatan, Lasana Nabalat, La Sabanalat, Nabalat, Khan, Haharanya, Wa Abayaharawa, it's like it, Wa Abara, it's like it, Wa Abayarahawa, Ma'alja. All right, we're going to start from verse 22 in the English. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 22 in the English. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath. Remember me, O my power, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy. Like, this was the reasoning behind everything. It was so we can keep everything holy, meaning to keep everything separate and everything clean. Like, that was what you were supposed to do on the Sabbath. You were never supposed to not keep it holy. You were ordered to keep it holy, meaning you were supposed to be separate from everyone else on this day. Meaning you were not supposed to deal with other nations on this day. You were not allowed to deal with other heathens on this day. Like, God is about being separate. God is about being divided. The Most High power is not about coming together with a rainbow coalition, all holding hands, skipping down rainbows. That is not the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible was always about separatism, being separate, which means to be holy, being divided, being separate. That means to be holy. That's the God of the Bible. So this entire time in verse 22, when we were supposed to cleanse ourselves, when we're supposed to separate ourselves and keep the gates holy and making sure no other heathen comes in, because this is a part of keeping the Sabbath, which was keeping it holy, not dealing with other nations unless you don't have to. Like, you're not obligated on the Sabbath to deal with these other heathens and to deal with other nations outside of Israel. You're not obligated to that day. Any other day, go ahead and handle your business. But on this day, you don't have to worry about it. Like, this was the spirit of Nehemiah chapter 13 the entire time. All right. Verse 23. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. So during this time, Nehemiah saw that there were Jews that married outside of their nation. And specifically, it was wives of Ashdod, and of Ammon, and of Moab. So he saw men of the Lord. He saw the Jews. He saw Israelite men taking wives of another nation of people. And this has always been against the law. This has always been against God. This has always been against the spirit of the Most High. We were never supposed to interracial marriage each other. We were never supposed to indulge in interracial marriaging. We were never supposed to mingle with these other nations and races of people on the earth. We were obligated and ordered by God, and this is a part of our culture. This is a part of our heritage that we were never taught. This is a part of our culture that we were never taught. No thanks to Christianity, no thanks to Islam, no thanks to Buddhism, no thanks to Rastafarian, no thanks to Egyptology, no thanks to the philosophies of our oppressor. We were never taught this about our culture, and we were never taught this about our heritage. Verse 24. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. Like, this is how important it was to know your language. This is why it was so important to know how to speak the Hebrew, knowing how to speak the Lashon Kodash. This is also why it was important to not go outside of your race or your nation of people and to marry them. We were never supposed to give our daughters to their sons. And we were never supposed to give our sons to their daughters. This was in our law. This was in our custom. This was in our culture. This was a part of our heritage. All right. We were never supposed to do such things. And this is an example why we were never supposed to do it. Because we start to diminish who we are by doing so. Because we chose to give our sons to their daughters, the next generation does not know how to speak the language of their forefathers. They don't know how to speak the language of their people. That's an absolute sin, and that's actually an absolute crime in most nations. Like, you were never allowed to grow up and not know how to speak the original language of your people. You were never allowed to go through, you were never allowed to walk through this earth and not know who you are and not know how to speak the language of your ancestors. Like, if you're going to China right now and you say you are Chinese but don't know how to speak Chinese, you're considered not Chinese. You are whoever language you spoke. You are whoever the language you are speaking from. That's who you are. That's exactly who you are. Some people, if you're from America and you're Chinese and you don't know how to speak Chinese, and you go into China and don't know how to speak Chinese, they're going to call you American. They'll say you are an Americanized Chinese person. You're Americanized. Well, guess what? This is what happens when you don't know how. This is what happens when you don't know how to speak your language. This is what happens when the generation before you makes the decision to go outside of their nation and race of people and marry them. This is what happens. Our culture starts to be diminished. We start to fall away from who we are. We start to migrate away from who God wants us to be. Like, y'all remember the Lion King movie, right? Y'all remember Lion King back in the day, back in the 90s when it first came out, when it came out in theaters, and you had those, those VCR tapes. I know some of y'all don't know what VCR tapes look like anymore. We actually, some of us don't even know what CDs look like anymore. You know what I'm saying? But this was, way back when dinosaurs walked the earth, VCR tapes, right? And there was a movie called The Lion King. It was a Disney movie. And his father, Mufasa, right? His father, Mufasa, had a son, and his name was Simba, right? Mufasa had a son, and his name was Simba. And eventually his father died, right? Or he was killed by Scar, whatever the case may be. And so Simba had to roam the earth without having a father. And he was no longer allowed, and he never went back to the pride. A pride is a group of lions, all right? A group of lions, that's a pride, okay? And so Simba was walking the earth not knowing who he was and he had no idea what to do. He was a lion. But he had a war hog and a meerkat. I believe it was Puma. Puma was the war hog, right? And Timon was the meerkat. These are animals, by the way. All right. And they guided this lion. Now, at first, remember if y'all remember the movie briefly, at first Timon and Puma was like, wait a minute, this is a baby lion. We can't have this person with us. You know what I'm saying? He's going to and Puma was like, well, he's just a kid, right? And Timon was like, nah. But even though he's a baby kid, he's going to grow up into a big lion. Like, oh, that big giant lion that's ferocious and that eats people like us. You know what I'm saying? But they decided to take him in, all right, and they were teaching them how to live. But now this is what happened. Now Timon and Puma are not lions, so they don't live like lions. So now Simba is learning how to live like Puma and Timon, which are not lions. And so Timon and Puma is teaching Simba how to eat bugs and insects and all this type of stuff. Lions don't eat bugs and insects. Lions eat meat. Lions eat raw meat. Lions eat war hogs and zebras and gazelles and meerkats if they could. Like they eat other animals. They eat meat. They eat raw meat. You understand? Now he's learning how to eat bugs and insects, something that lions don't do. Then he's being trained how to not be a lion that entire time. All right? This is because he has mingled himself unknowingly. He mingled himself with a people that was not his. He no longer mingled himself with lions like he was supposed to. He mingled himself unknowingly with pumas, with Puma and Timon, which was a meerkat and a warhog that lives the complete opposite life of a lion. You understand? According to the movie. All right. I'm not going to go. This is not the Discovery Channel. All right. So I'm not going to go into specifics about what warhogs eat and what meerkats eat. All right. But I'm giving you the premise of what happens when you decide to go outside of your nation and you go outside, you start to diminish who you are. You no longer learn who you are. And this is why it was so important for us to be separate to begin with, because it diminished who we are. We started to fall away from who we are supposed to be. And most importantly, we started to fall away from who God wanted us to be. And this is what's happening in Nehemiah chapter 13. This is why in Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 24, so like in verse 23, so like in verse 24, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. Because we decided to mingle ourselves with another nation or race of people. And because of so, we don't even know how to speak our own language. Imagine we don't even imagine a Chinese person that doesn't know how to speak Chinese. That's weird. Imagine a Japanese person that doesn't know how to speak Japanese. That's weird. We this is how weird that is. We automatically know as a people when we see a Japanese or Chinese person, we automatically assume they know how to speak their language because they are known to speak their own language. Imagine if you look at an East Indian right now, there is no doubt in your mind that they know how to speak the East Indian language. But imagine running into an East Indian that doesn't know how to speak the East Indian language. You would look at him like he has 13 heads. Even though you're not East Indian, you would look at him like he's crazy or she's crazy because they usually know how to speak their own language. Well, how about it's weird for you not to know how to speak Hebrew? That's weird. If you are so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, it is weird that you don't know how to speak the Lashwan Kodash. So how about we stop being weird and come into the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge and learn your culture and learn your heritage and learn how to speak the Hebrew and learn how to speak the Lashwan Kodash, because this is a part of our culture. This is a part of our heritage. This is a part of who we are. That's important. Other nations find it important. So why shouldn't we? Verse 25. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. So contending meaning Nehemiah is fighting with them. Nehemiah is throwing straight hands with these brothers, man, and letting you know from this point on, you are to not give your sons to their daughters, nor their daughters to their sons. You are not allowed to do so. Why is Nehemiah saying this? Because this is literally the law. This is the law. This is talking about, he's telling them to not give their sons and daughters to the Ashdod people. He's literally telling them to not give their sons and daughters to the Ammonite people, to Ammon. Nehemiah is literally telling them to not give their sons and daughters to the Moabite people, which is Moab. He's telling them not to do these things, to not give your sons and daughters to the so-called Jewish man, or the Japanese, or the Chinese. Nehemiah is saying to not do any of these things. Do not do it. He's saying that. He's saying not to do these things because it's the law. It's because it's what God said to not do. That is simply why he's cursing them, pulling out their hairs, fighting them, whooping their tail, smoting them, literally going to war with these brothers, telling them this is not what you do. Because it's such a disgrace, and it's so awful and so horrible to see your people not know who they are and not know how to speak the language of their forefathers and speak the language of their ancestors. That's a horrible thing. All right. And like I said before, in most nations and most races, that's a crime. That brings dishonor to your family. It was non-honorable to not know how to speak the language of your forefathers or your ancestors in most nations. Well, it's the same thing for us. That's why we need to know how to speak the Hebrew. Verse 26. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Like he's asking them during this time. Did not King Solomon sin by these things? Because it was a sin to give your daughters to their sons, or to give your daughters to their sons, or your sons to their daughters. It was a sin to do that. No matter who and what it was a sin to do that. It was against the law. We were never supposed to interracially marriage. Yet among many nations was there no king like him. Yet, there was no king like King Solomon. Who was beloved of his God, or beloved of his power. Like he was well loved by the Most High. All right. And God made him king over all Israel. God did make King Solomon over Israel. Even though God made King Solomon king over all of Israel, and God gave King Solomon power, and he was such a great and powerful king and a very wise king. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. So outlandish meaning is another nation of people. It's another race of people, right? Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. So by him dealing with outlandish women, meaning other women outside of his nation, he sinned by doing that. Right? Now, why is Nehemiah saying this? Because King Solomon is known about. King Solomon is a wise king. King Solomon is in our history books at this time. We know who King Solomon is. We know who our great ancestors are. We know who our people are. So we know about King Solomon. We know about King David. But he brought up, even though King David was wise and smart and loved by God, nevertheless, by doing this with other nations and races of people, by interracially marrying, he sinned. It was against God. You understand? Verse 27. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil? Meaning, shall we listen to you guys and do what you do? And sin and do all this great evil? To transgress against our God in marrying strange wives? Because it was an evil thing to marry outside of your nation. It was an evil thing to marry Becky. Understand? It was an evil thing to marry Ufwefwe, Ufwefwe, Ufwefwe. Like it was evil to marry Ibu Tibu. You understand? It was evil to marry Tibet. It was evil to marry these people, man. It was a very evil thing to do. You were never supposed to do such things because it was evil. Verse 28. All right. And one of the sons of Joiada, the son of Elishib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Shanabalat, the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. So he completely chased him from me. And so one of the sons was Elishib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Sanballat, the son of the Horonite. All right. Therefore I chased him from me. So Nehemiah chased this brother away. You understand? Because the moral of everything was to get rid of all the evil. Right? Nehemiah's task and Nehemiah's job was to get rid of all the evil in Jerusalem, to get rid of all the evil in Israel, to completely cleanse the temple. Like this was the point of everything. Nehemiah was rectifying all the things that were done wrong. Because evil is wrong. Evil is bad. Those are all synonyms of each other. All right? And now it's Nehemiah's job as a priest, just like it's our job in the Israelite school in Slakia. And just like it's our job in the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge to cleanse everything, to get rid of all the evil in our nation, to get rid of all the bad in our nation. That's our job. That's why we are priests. That's why we took the oath that we took, because all of this has to stop. All of this has to be diminished. All that evil, all the wickedness, all the bad has to go. Every last one of it has to. In order for us to fix the actual problem in our nation, to fix all of the problems that are happening in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community, all of the evil has to be wiped out. Every last one of it. If not, nothing is going to go our way. Nothing is going to be fixed. Nothing is going to change. And the same things that are happening now will continue to happen. And worst of all, it's going to get worse. How about we let it not get worse? If you're in class right now, do not let it get worse. I pray you guys understand, all right? With that, Imagine, which means to stand, just us up here. La Yashara. This will be the time that the men of the Lord will come up and salute the Torah. Imadium, which means to stand. Well, Panyahak were dumb and face the east. We're going to do the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. The Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakavka, Daba'a, Batazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazah, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, La Thundanawa, Lacham, Kal, Yawam, Wasalakanawa, Chabawaknawa, Kasalaknawa, Chabawakinawa, Wala'a, Tabaya'anawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Hawashainawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Watapara, La Awalamyam, Aman. In the English, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. Hakak, the power in the Hebrew, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Baba Kwashai, Nathanawa, Hakak, Lava Pa'a, Kalmachala, Wakal Marawa, Hakak, Latahar, Hamad Zarayim, Hakak, Lahakwayim, Hamathium, Hakak, Arakawa, Hatama'ala, Lagarashan, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, the Wada Aman. In the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always, so be it. Slaki, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Psalms 121 in the Hebrew. Asha'a, Ayanya, Ahahoya, Ma'ayan, Yaba'a, Isaiah, Ma'ain, Yahweh, Aisha, Shemayim, Wa'arataza, Al Yathan, Lamawat, Regalka, Al Yanawam, Shemorka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yashan, Shawamor Yasha'ala, Yahweh, Shemorka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Al Yad, Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'a, Yakaka, Wayarak, Walayala, Yahweh, Yashamorka, Makaurai, Yashamor, Apnapashka, Yahweh, Yashamor, Tazaka, Wabawa'aka, Ma'ita, Wa'aid, Awalam, Aman. In the English, I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. So be it. Psalms 83 in the Hebrew. Alahayim, al damayalaka, al takarash, wa al tashakwat, al kayahana, al yabyaka, Yahama Yawan, Wamashanayaka, Nasha'awa, Ra'ash, Aula Aimaka, Ya Irayamwa, Sawad, Wayatha Ai Tazawa, Al Tazapawanyaka, Amorwa, Lakawa, Wanakakidam, Magoya, Wala'a, Yazakar, Sham Yasha'ala, Iwad, Kaya, Nawa'ai Tazawa, La, Yakadwa, Audika, Barya, Yakarakwa, Ahoya, Adawan, Wayashama'alayam, Mawa'aba, Wahagaryam, Kabal, Wa'aimawan, Wa'aimalak, Palashah, I'm Yashabya, Tazawar, Gama Ashawar, Nalawa, Imam, Hayawa, Zavawai, Labanya Lawak, Salah, Aishalaham, Kamadyan, Kasayasa Ra'a, Kayabyan, Banakal, Koyashwan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayanda Ara, Hayawa, Daman, La Adama, Shayathamwa, Narayamawa, Ka'ira, Wakazaaba, Wakazabat, Wakazalmanai, Kaul, Nasayakamwa, Ashor, Amorwa, Nayavashala, Nawa Afna Awa, Alahayam, Alahaya, Shayathamwa, Kagalgala, Kakwash, Lapanyavaka, Kaash, the Ba'ira Iva, Wakalahaba, Talahat, Haryam, Khan, Tharadatma, Wasa Ibaka, Wabasawapaka, Tabahalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Kalawan, Wayabakwashwa, Shamka Yahawah Yabashwa, Wayabahalwa, Aya Ai, Wayahaparwa, Wayabadwa, Wayada Iowa, Kaya, Afta, Shamka Yahawah Labadka, Al Yuwan, Al Kal Harataza, Aman. In the English, keep not thy silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have opened the children of Lot Salah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kasan, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreg, and like the Gate, all their princes as the Ba, and as the Munah, who said, Let us take to ourselves the house of Yahweh in possession. All by power, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth for wood, and as the flame sets the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Yahweh. Let them be confounded, and choked forever. Yea, let them be put to shame, and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High over all the earth. So be it. Do the blessings in the Hebrew. Brakatha Yahweh, wa Yahweh Shai, wa Maya Ka'ala, wa Alahayim, Matazab Ya'ah, Alawak Yahana, Ha Alawakyam, Ha Saranyam, Ha Kutazayanyam, Ha Chayayanyam, wa Ha Agwakyam, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, the water Aman. In the English, bless you Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai, and Michael, and the angels, commanding General Yahana, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Do the prayer of the curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, listen to us now, right now. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen that speak against us, thy prophets, the teachers, the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the school. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen, and shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel that refuse to give to the school. Force the riches to enter thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the Edomites and the nations, and their drug dealers, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, skinheads, Positcomitasme, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space programs, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet and the airwaves, the cable access channels, and the radio channels. Convict the spirit of any of thy people that seek to stop us, and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your words throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro through the earth and consume them. Let the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer. Let Yahweh Shai, Michael, and Gabriel come down with the flying saucers and punish all the heathens that come up against us as we speak thy word. Cause it to be known by all that is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media, throughout the whole world. Cause them to shake up thy coming. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always, so be it. Get bless Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Barak Lanawa, Wa Yasha Allah, Wahaba Yap Sapoyim, Barak, Bapa'ah, Magun, Hagun, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, the water Aman. What we just said, just us up here, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please, like it, bless us and Israel and the school. Bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Star, which means to turn. Yashab Yun for the sisters. Yashab Yun for the sisters. The sisters can now be seated. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courteous salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Ahmadu, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Barakatham, Yadamata, Sar, La'adwafia, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel, Slakia, Amadyan, which means to now stand for the sisters. All sisters can now stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Ahmadu Shabbat, Ahmadu, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alathan, Ba'ashim Yahushua. Yadimata. With that, class dismissed.